those of you who haven't had the pleasure of meeting me, I'm Len Heller, and I guess I'm the facilitator for this MAC-SIG group. Today we have a special guest. His name is Peter Brusso. Peter specializes in websites and a lot of other things. He's got a great voice. I'm sure you're going to be impressed by the voice. But don't argue with Peter, because besides being an expert with websites, he's also a martial arts teacher and instructor.
That's okay, I got Medicare.
Good. And he does teach martial arts to seniors. And we have one or two living here. But today's discussion, as soon as I clear my throat, excuse me, will be sort of an introduction to websites. I have very little knowledge personally, hoping Peter will shed some light on this thing. He has a presentation, so without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Peter Brusso, B-R-U-S-S-O, Brusso. And, well, Peter, it's all yours now.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. We're going to have quite the whirlwind education today on websites and much, much more. Basically, what I do, well, I do a lot of stuff these days, but the basic thing that I end up doing is building websites that make people money and drive traffic into their sites. And I'm going to explain from day one, and I've been doing this since 1992, so I've had a little bit of experience with that. So let's get the next slide up. All right, in Web 1.0 days, that's back in the late 1990s until the crash of 2001, what we're speaking of. The technology of websites came out, and basically one of the biggest challenges for websites in those days is to get people to your site. So they had to make you wake up in the morning and think, gee, I'm going to go over to seniorscams.podcast.com today. And people just don't normally wake up every day thinking, gee, I got to go to a website. So the Web 1.0 really struggled to get traffic and hold them on the site. And there was no really good way to hold them on the site. They tried contests, they tried banner ads, they tried free giveaways, all kinds of different stuff to keep that traffic going. But basically, there was never any good way to get people to wake up each morning and find out and want to go to that website. So ultimately, this led to the collapse of Web 1.0. Next slide, please. Web 2.0, the main revelation to Web 2.0 was what we now know as the RSS feed, standing for Real Simple Syndication. Now, we're all used to getting newspapers in the morning, right? Once you make your subscription, you wake up, take your coffee out there, and hopefully at your doorstep is your newspaper. Well, that same model they took to the web. All I had to do now is to get you onto my site and to click an RSS feed button, and then what would happen magically by your browser is every time I put up new content, it gets pushed right to your web, right to your computer. And that made the big difference in Web 1.0 to 2.0 was the RSS feed, or again, Real Simple Syndication. So every website needs to be today using an RSS feed. That's your first checkoff box. You better see an RSS feed on that site, or they're not up to speed with how to get people to look at that. Now, Google was huge in its RSS feed readers. Now, you could go and, if you run into a newspaper you like and it has an RSS feed, you just click the RSS feed button, and it, again, is pushed right to the top bar of your browser. So you'd see this thing and go, oh, what's that? And here's all the articles. And every new article that comes out automatically is put right there. You never have to go back to the website again. So you could read New York Times, LA Times, any of that stuff just almost automatically through your reader system. And that was the big indication, that was the big revolution that made us to where we are today. So you can get news feeds, podcasting, music, and a whole lot more by using these RSS feeds. Now, how many of you use iTunes? Anybody use iTunes? Okay. iTunes is like an RSS feed reader. When you click on you want to get some music, or you want that TV show, or you want that podcast, it automatically goes and updates it right onto your iTunes application, right? That's the great example of an RSS feed, okay? And it's lovely. You don't even have to think about going back anymore. So the next thing about, whoops, go back. The next thing about the RSS feed was that podcasting, I'm going to be using that term quite often today. For those that don't know what podcasting is, it's basically your own TV or radio station served on the web. I mean, we could have the Mac Users Group have a podcast and put it up every week for other Mac users around the world to enjoy. If you wanted to do something like that, pretty simple to go do, okay? And then, again, you only have to get a reader to your site one time and get them to click on the RSS feed icon, which I forgot to put an RSS feed icon, but there's a number of them. But so I'll have to make a note of that one when I do this again. And so when you do a website, you want to make sure if you have content like articles, videos, things that you're pushing onto the website, those are all subject to be part of an RSS feed reader, okay? All right, let's go to the next slide. Content is king. Now, the search engines from Web 1.0 days, there were a number of them. Google, oddly enough, wasn't even part of the mix in the earlier days. You had Alta Vista, you had All Search, you had a bunch of different ones. Ask Jeeves, some of you might remember Ask Jeeves, and they've all fallen by the wayside. Now Google is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. They have a search algorithm, all of them do. And their job, a search engine's job, is relevancy. When we type in a particular question, we expect to have relevant data come back about that question. And if they don't do that well, they're fired. They're going to be out of business completely. So it's Google's main theme and idea is to find relevant content to a search query. And like I say, if they fail to do that, they're going to go out of business. So they've developed algorithms, which sometimes aren't very kind to us, by the way. They really started to hurt us out on the field, a battle out there of being an entrepreneur on the web. But nonetheless, their bottom line that you must always remember is content is king. For a search engine, they're always looking for fresh content and relevant content. And how do they determine whether content is relevant or not is by keywords that you either identify or they try to guess. Okay, now if you ever want a website or be a website owner, the first thing you got to realize, you don't want them to guess about anything. You want to tell them exactly what you're relevant for. That way you can be ranked for those keywords. We're going to get into that in a minute. And again, content is absolutely king with that. And without good, relevant, fresh content on your website, you have no chance to rank at all. You'll be lost in the sea of the many, many hundreds of thousands of millions of web pages that there are out there. And so that's kind of sort of our battle. If we're going to have a website, how do we get it found? That's really got to be top of mind awareness. How do we do that? If you don't have a website that is found, what you've got is an online brochure. That's all you've got. And you've got to change that content almost daily if you can in some way. Now, there's a big strategy play, and I'll get to this in a few minutes as a way to do all of this stuff, and it's quite daunting, but it's what we have to live with today in Web 2.0. Next slide. All right. What goes on the first page? How do you get on the first page of a Google search? Now, everybody talks about, oh, I can put you on the first page of a Google search. They're liars. That's the first thing when somebody tells you that, they're lying to you. That's what everybody wants. That's what they want to hear, but they're lying to you. The best they could do is to put you on the first page of a Google search for your particular keyword. Okay, that's what they can do, but there's a bunch of assumptions with that. First off, can you compete with your keyword? And we'll get into that in just a minute. All keywords aren't the same. And so the first thing that you look at, what Google looks at are your keywords. And there are 4 types of them, right? And I'm not going to drive down too far into that. the different types, but I'll give you what makes a good keyword. Content, got to be fresh, got to be ever building. They actually look at how many index pages that you have. And index pages are pages that their search engine comes to visit you and they find more pages available. So as your count from 40 to 50 to 60 to 100 to 200 starts to go up, Google realizes that, wow, they must be some kind of authority in their area or they wouldn't be chunking this web up like that. And basically you're trying to get Google to see that you're an authority in your field, a thought leadership, business leadership, and there's a bunch of indications that'll show them that in fact you are that person. But until that, they don't trust you and they shove you back 100 pages off the first page, okay? And by the way, you can interrupt me with questions at any time, if anybody has any questions. The next one is social media. Yes, Dee?
How does Google make that determination? Is it done
Automatically.
automatically?
Yeah, their search algorithm, which they tweak almost weekly. The biggest one, Penguin and Panda their search engine, Penguin and Panda updates came out and killed us all. But they won't tell you what's in those algorithms, so you can't even be Google friendly. You have to guess at it constantly, which is horrible. It's like coming home to your wife, and she never gives you a prescription for what's going to make her happy. It changes every day, and for women that'll drive her crazy. All we want to know is what the heck, how to make them happy.
It's a happy marriage.
That is a happy marriage, and Google isn't one of them. So the next thing you look at really big nowadays is social media. And I have a whole section on social media. So they see if you have social media tied to your site and on your site. That's one of their goodness checks. Be Google friendly. Use proper use of content. Use proper use of your keywords. There's 7 places to use keywords in a website strategically to be Google friendly. If you fail to do that, forget it. You're gone. And then finally, one of the bigger aspects of an authority. Okay, so if Dee was an authority, what do you do, Dee? What did you do? You were woodworker, right?
No, Indonesian art.
Okay, so Dee's an expert in Indonesian art. The only way that they could tell that she was really an expert was how many other sites that have Indonesian art actually backlink to her or give her we really like this site, so they give us a link pointing back to Dee's main site. And that's called a backlink. Now, if that site that gave us a backlink has a page rank of 0, which is Google doesn't trust you, all new websites get a page rank of 0, and it'll be years and years and years, and if they don't do any of this stuff right, you'll still be a page rank of 0. So a backlink to Dee's site that's a page rank of 0 is a 0 in Google's eyes. What you need to get are backlinks from sites that have high page rank rankings, like 4, 5, 6, 10 even, okay? And page rank is only a Google term. Google's the only one that uses it. Bing doesn't see it. The rest of them don't see it. And so page rank is what is considered an authority. How much of an authority do they believe you are in your field is what page rank stands for ultimately. One of my sites has a PR of 3. It's taken me 12 years to battle to get to a PR of 3 and hang in there. So it isn't the easiest thing in the world. So you want to get backlinks from high PR sites. Yes, ma'am.
Would those be, the high PR sites, would those be the ads that are on the right-hand side?
Have nothing to do with
Okay.
that. Those are paid ads those are AdWords or paid ads from
Okay.
Google.
Thank you.
Okay? The page rank is assigned by Google automatically to your site. If you use Google Chrome for your browser, by the way, you can go get a page rank indicator and it'll show you exactly wherever you're browsing what the page rank is.
Thank you.
Okay, and the reason why that's important, there's a strategy play downstream where you do article marketing. This is where you write articles that are keyword laden and you put them on these article sites like ezine.com, authorpages.com. There's a whole bunch of them. They all have PR ranks of about 6. And in the bio box, you can give a link back to your site. So you get one backlink with a PR of 6, worth its weight in gold. So if you're actually trying to drive your site into an authority position to get a better ranking on Google, is what you should be doing. Article marketing downstream does take the next thing of your marketing. And search engine marketing are called SEM, and that's kind of sort of what you're learning a big broad brush today about. Right, next one. All right, now this looks like a Polish attack map. It's actually, the ones I draw on my windows are far worse than this. But let's just stay centered right here. Your website, and at the heart of your website are your keywords. They are the heart and soul of your website. They are the everything of your website. Nothing should exist more than putting your effort into finding a handful of really good keywords. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But that is literally what drives your entire website out on the web. Your website should consist of video on the front. People like to watch video. They don't like to read anymore, right? So a really successful website has good, nice chunks of video on the front end that people can watch that are entertaining. They should have, obviously, the keywords we talked about. Relevant content. I have a self-defense weapon site we're going to see in a minute. I should not be talking about dancing. I should not be talking about World War II guns, maybe. Well, maybe the guns could work. But I shouldn't be talking about hair coloring. That topic matter does not fit the entire theme of the website. So relevant content is extremely important to keep that way. And many times as website owners, my little niece will do something and I'll put up a picture of her dancing. Isn't this cute? Don't do that. You know, even though you want to do that, leave that for Facebook or something, but don't put it on your site. If you have an Indonesian art site, that's all that goes on there. We don't talk about Picasso. We don't talk about anybody else, so it's irrelevant to the site. Google Analytics is code that you can get and put into your website that you can honestly tell every day who comes there, how many people come there, what they look at, what they click on, where they go, how long they stay, where they bounce off to, okay? It's phenomenal data. And what we do with that is you'll find in any website, certain pages are more popular than other pages, just by nature. And if we're going to be sellers or marketing people or entrepreneurs, we want to put our best deal on those pages that are most popular. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So without Google Analytics, we're flying blind. We don't know anything. And you'll see people, there's another big major misconception. Hits. You ever hear people say, oh, I had 100 hits today, right? That's nothing. If your page has 100 elements on it, that's pictures, some text boxes, an arrow, this, and say there's 100 of those, when one person lands on it, you have 100 hits. But that's only one person. So what you really look for are unique visitors. That's the most important measure of traffic you can have. How many unique visitors? Now, this Google Analytics can tell you where they came from, what country they came from, how old they are, and in some cases, how much they purchased on the web in the last 3 months. So it really gives you some interesting data, and you can go nuts analyzing data, but I digress. Also, you should have an on-site blog. You should have social media on here too. They're all off to one side here, but you should have your social media links on the site. An on-site blog, everybody said, what the heck is a blog? A blog is like your diary on a web. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, Indonesian art, every week or every day or every other day, we can pick an art, we can look at it, we can dissect it, put it up there, put our keywords in this thing, right? And links back to our site. And that would be from Blogger hanging out there. Now, do you know who owns Blogger.com? Google.
Do they?
Right. So one of our strategies is we want to put all of our stuff right in their backyard. We don't want to make it hard for them to go find it. I can guarantee you, after you write a blog post, and Dick's a really good blogger now. Dick is actually a co-host on a podcast with me and personal friend. Blogger, you hardly even push the enter button to publish it and your finger goes up. Google's already scanned it, figured out what it is, and has it ready to go. It's that quick, okay? So a sitemap is important. That's behind the scenes. Part of the RSS feed world became something called a .xml file. And .xml files is a list file, and that's how feed readers work. Well, now they use the same thing for your site. They want you to use a feed reader-like application to go through and make sure that it sees all of the pages you want it to see. So when Google hits the front end to spider you, it looks for that sitemap first. If that sitemap isn't there, it just doesn't do a wholly good job of finding out who you are, and then kind of derate you because you're not friendly to them. So these are real important plays. And then robot code is another one that Google looks for right off the bat. And robot code says what pages you want them to look at and which pages you don't want them to look at. If you sell something on the web and after they buy, they're released to a web page in your site, right, where they can download stuff. Some of us have done that before. You don't want Google to know about that download page, that somebody could see it in a Google search. Bypasses your whole purchasing thing. So that robot code is important. Now, once you've got all this stuff going on, here's your social media stuff, and I just listed a few, that you should be using. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and Blogger. Now, who owns YouTube? Take a guess.
Google.
Google, good job. Now, interesting to note, we put up all of our videos on YouTube and serve them over onto our site. We embed them, okay? So what do we do with those YouTube videos? We put keywords on, the same keywords that we have here. So all your keywords will be used across this fleet of social media, whichever ones you decide you want to use and are appropriate for your business. For Dee's case, Pinterest is one of the highest ones she could use because it's a visual. Pinterest is a visual media. The quilting ladies down the way here, group. Pinterest, for sure. YouTube, for sure. Yes, you should be using Blogger. Twitter is like a news brief, okay? Where all of a sudden you just say, hey, and I should have tweeted, and my social media person, Denise, should have tweeted that I'm giving this talk today because I have a bunch of followers. They like to know what you're doing. Go figure. But they go back to your site, they see what you're about, and they buy stuff. So that's why you do it. And then Facebook is more like a family thing. You post once a day at Facebook, twice tops, no more than that. Matter of fact, if you post more than 10 times a day at Facebook, they'll cut you out. They'll shut you down. So each of the social medias has their own community, their own language, and their own culture. And so if you're going to use it, you've got to learn about it and use it properly. Now, the things that kill your website over here are bad HTML code, poor design. If you make it difficult to use your site, people will bounce in and they'll bounce right back out, okay? No keywords, no search engine optimization, or worse yet, even poorly done search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is you're trying to tell Google what keywords are important and relevant for you. Okay, and they're trying to figure that out without somebody actually going to see your site. So that algorithm they use are looking in certain places, we'll get into that in a minute, to try to figure out what you are, who you are. And then finally, the use of no social media is a killer. Absolute killer today. So these are the things that kill you. Other parts off your website, podcasting, extremely important to embrace podcasting. It's not hard to do. You got to get educated on how to do it like anything else, but once you get it going, it's not so hard. I've got a cell phone right here that's recording me. That's going to go up as a podcast later today or this weekend. So you can do podcasting. Dick and I both have a podcast that we'd like to introduce too, is the seniorscamspodcast.com. We, in another business group that we're in, ran across the fact that seniors are the most scammed group there is out there. And I was shocked. Well, why is that? And the more that Dick and I looked into it, the more hideous it got. And guess where ground zero in the entire world for senior scams is? Palm Springs. We're the ground zero. Where every scammer in the world is trying to get to you guys and me. Okay, so we wanted to start a podcast that tells you about these scams and shows you generally how to figure out if they're scams. Yes, sir.
An example, currently, I've been getting at least once a month an announcement from Verizon saying that you have a problem with your billing, please send us your current information. And it isn't that. This is a scam.
It's a scam.
It's been verified with the homeowner association.
Yep.
And with
And I encourage you, Dick will leave some cards behind. If you get anything and you have a question, send it to Dick or myself or give us a call. And we actually want to find people to deputize seniors in groups like yours that will go around and preach the word of watchseniorscams.com, get them interested because, you know, we're of a generation that likes to say yes. We're of a generation that likes to help people. We're also a generation that has a little bit more stash and reserve than everybody else does, and that's what makes us, you know, it's impolite. Your parents would say, you know, don't be rude to people, right? And so we have to listen to them, and then we try to convince them we don't want this, and we're just locked in that loop. And so Dick and I have taken it upon ourselves. We don't get paid for that podcast, but we want to get the word out. So there was another question?
Well, I just said, number one, don't click on any links.
Yeah, never click on a link. Absolutely do not. You can open the email and read it, but don't click on anything.
Exactly.
And you didn't win any sweepstakes. You didn't win the lottery. The African nation that wants to give you $2.3 million through the United Nations is bogus. If it's too good to be true, as Dick always says, it is. And you guys should talk to Dick about it. It's really great. He's got some great stats, and he's through Twitter, he's learned. I taught Dick how to build his own website. He's 74 years old. He's got a phenomenal website. Then I taught him how to build his mobile site. He's got a beautiful mobile site. We were even at a kind of a party thing, a mixer, and these guys said, oh yeah, look at our website, and where's the mobile site? Well, this is the mobile site. And Dick walks over, says, this is what a mobile site looks like. You know, it's like, whoa. Dick is 74. These guys were early 40s. And there's Dick, duking them out, loving it. So that was really good. But podcasting is a lot of fun, and anybody can start it, and anybody can do it. iTunes, we talked about that. Once you get at least 10 podcast shows up on YouTube, right, free, then you would syndicate it to iTunes, and then the content would explode all over the internet. There's other content aggregators, as we call it. When you do a podcast or a podcast series, there's other video search or video podcast sites. What do they need? They need content. So they go over to the other video sites and they steal the content and bring it across, which you want them to steal. Perfect, because it opens up a whole new set of audiences to you. So your footprint gets larger and larger. Now, as your footprints get larger and larger, what do you think Google sees? Footprint getting larger and larger. You must be an expert in your field, an authority figure. Your page rank starts to come up again, okay? So all these are strategy plays. And then finally, we talked about the article marketing getting backlinks from high page rank sites. We haven't talked about 411 sites. Very interesting. Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, everybody has started some kind of business, local business website. We have Manta, we have all kinds of different websites that want to run around to a community and say, I have this community listing and pay me some money to get an ad. And so they're all out there everywhere. They're called 411 sites. 411 is a term, a cross between a review site where people could come and review your business and a search engine. So it's kind of a hybrid of two of the basic versions of business that you see on the web. 411 sites. So one of the things I do video reviews of websites, and I tear them apart. And then at the end of all of that, I give them a prescription on how to fix their website, free of charge. Part of the thing is the 411 site. And you can come up with hundreds of data errors. Wrong address, wrong telephone number, no pictures, and how'd that happen? Well, these 411 sites, when they just started, if D&I started one that was for Del Webb Properties business listings, right, .com. Well, we don't have any data, so we get some internet dudes that go scrape data from all the businesses around us and stick it in our website. So they scrape it. And over the years that D&I are doing this, they keep scraping data. Well, the data that they're getting is outdated, wrong, whatever, right? And our little sales staff guy would be me, call up and say, hey, we got this listing here and we got all these people, why don't you advertise with us? But your data's not right. Gee, for a fee, I can fix that. That goes back to business school 101, where the guy, your window gets broken and there's a brick with a business card on the brick for the guy that fixes glass. okay? That, they create the problem and then they want to go fix it for you. Terrible. But they'll go out and anybody can trash and badmouth your restaurant, okay? Which, by the way, on review sites you have only two types of people. The passionately negative people or the passionately positive people. You never get the mainstream. When we go in and have good food, we expect good food. So I'm not going to write a good food review. I'm going to write when it's poor service or poor food because you took my money, I'm mad at you. Or I know the owner and I like the owner and the food's pretty nice too and I'll go do that. So they get these two. What happens to the restaurant industry, is a terrible thing, is that in a 5-star review system, every star you lose, that restaurant loses 10% of its annual salary per month. So if it's $1 million business, they're going to lose $10,000 of income of people coming through that door for every star that they lose. It's a killer, and they can't fix it. People will only read the first 3 or 4 reviews. They're not going to go diving all through there. They just want to know if it's a good place to eat for $300 a month. My pitch. In America, we have to reboot our economy. It's going to be done by entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs need to be stimulated to get out there and make money and make jobs. All right, social media. It's really important when you start to use social media, you got to know it's not a sales pitch. If you jump out on Pinterest with your Indonesian thing and say, sale right now, $150 marked down, you know, and this and every day I'm seeing that, it's not a sales pitch, period. You start using it, and it's not something you just start using and then start telling everybody how great you are either. You know, go on Facebook. It's not selling everybody. So make sure that your goals for your business match your social media. Again, blip.tv is where you can put up podcasts. They've now gone through, and I had some huge shows up there that they just threw away after 10 years. So I'm mad at them. But Blogger, again, is a Google property. Pinterest we talked about. Vimeo is another place to put up video. If you had classes you actually wanted to charge somebody for, just give me your expertise, you can put them up on Vimeo on a private channel. Once they pay you money, you can release them to Vimeo, for example. YouTube, again, is free stuff. You can get hours and hours of free time on Google. You could just talk up a storm. If you got a laptop with a camera, you can record that, put it up there, not a big deal. Yahoo Local, Google Plus is similar to Facebook, a little different. Every time you get a Gmail account, you get a Google Plus account. It's considered social media. What's the matter?
Choice.
Pardon me?
You have a choice.
Yes, but typically it's almost instantaneous. I think you have to undo that. Denise, do you have to undo it or?
No, it's automatic.
It's automatic now. Yeah, she's a social media expert in the room. But when you get a Google Gmail account, whether you know it or not, you automatically get a Google Plus account with that email. Okay? No big deal. But strategically, very interesting because it's a Google property, right? So whatever you put there, they spider it immediately. So what do you put there? Keywords in your dialogue with everybody. Okay? So Google. LinkedIn, more of a professional organization. It's starting actually to look a little bit like Facebook. It has a timeline that you can write on and the people can see what you're doing, but it's more professional. All right, and Twitter, of course. Twitter being more of the instant broadcast type world. It's stuff like you have to be under 140 characters. Matter of fact, I don't know, when I first heard of texting on a phone, I thought that was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard of. Anybody else feel the same way when they heard it? I mean, who's going to sit and type on a phone? Are you serious? I'm going to make a phone call. Boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. And then Twitter only has 140 characters. So it is like Paul Harvey used to be, page 2. You know, he's so succinct at what he would say in such a small amount of space. It became almost an art. If anybody follows a Drudge report, Drudge's headlines are the art now, and it follows the same thing as Twitter. And so Twitter's an interesting thing to use. All right, next slide. All right, the right social media, we talked about it, matches your goals. If you have a visual product, then you gravitate towards the ones that are more visual. Remember that Facebook is like a family, Twitter is like breaking news, StumbleOn is like an educational site. StumbleOn, if you've never been on StumbleOn.com, what a great way to spend the afternoon. Basically, when you sign on for StumbleOn, they ask you what you're interested in. Well, architecture in my case, internet stuff, marketing, and what they do is they go out and find content for you to look at that's in your list of things that you like. And you can either stay in just architecture or just internet stuff, or it'll bounce you around. And you can read the most incredible places and incredible things that StumbleOn has. It's very cool. And of course, I submit my site to StumbleOn, and people have stumbled on that because I can see it from Google Analytics that they came in from StumbleOn, or stumble upon. Okay, next. All right, let's talk about keywords again. I'm going to come back to this, and we're going to dive our way through it. It plays a role in the Web 2.0 media. We put them in blogs, social media, videos, all your properties. That's why I said the keywords are the most important heart and soul of everything you do on the web. And you use them on all of our properties. Those would be the bloggers, the social media, whatever. And they're considered the heart and soul. So what is a good keyword? Next one. Okay. Keyword has to have 3 attributes to it. First, it has to be popularly searched. Now, martial arts. I used to do a lot of martial arts sites. So in the days before we had keyword tools, you'd put in karate, you might put in an arnis, which is Filipino stick fighting. You put in knife-on-knife fighting if you were that kind of person. And I did all of that. When I finally got my first good keyword research tool, I went back to my old sites. Everything I picked was garbage. No one searched for it. Now, me, as a martial artist, think, well, this is what people would search for. They don't search for that at all. And so it amazes me, and I go out and I say to everybody I do keywords for, I don't care what you're guessing, I'll bet you dollars to donuts, they're not ever searched. And no, they aren't. And we put them in, and they're not searched. And they're flabbergasted like I am. So they have to be popularly searched. And we're looking for searches that are 50 searches a day or more. Those start to be good keywords that we might be able to grab some traffic. The reason why that is, in 10 days you would have if you could capture it, you'd have 500 visitors. Your conversion rate is 1%. Conversion meaning that out of 500 people, 10% is 50, 1% is 5. 5 people will purchase your item. That's a mathematical equation. One of the things that was fun about Lynn being a mechanical engineer, you're starting to see that there's an equation here for all of this. There's no mistake about it. And just think about it. It's a computer. Somebody had to make an equation. So all we have to do is outguess them, so to speak. So we want a popularly searched keyword. The second one is acceptable web page competition, less than 150,000 web pages. If you get above that, it's too tough to compete. So if you think, let's say we wanted a keyword like banking online. Now we know that that's going to be popularly searched, no question. How many other web pages have banking online? Millions and millions of them. And so you have to think of it this way. There's 2 boxing rings. One over here and one over there. And in this one is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And in this one is an old grandma in a wheelchair. Which of the 2 do we want to step in and duke it out with? We're taking the grandma out. She's gone. And that's what we say. For 150 pages and 150,000 pages and below, we can compete against that and rank for it. Above it, we could spend tons of money trying to do anything and get 0. So the third one is a good commercial index value. The search tools are so good right now that I can tell you how many people purchased using a particular keyword of something online on that particular keyword. That's really valuable. And what's it valuable for is it stops looky-loos. So if you tell me, Peter, we have $1,000 to invest in trying to get ranked for this keyword, is it good? I'm going to go through this whole thing here, and if I get down to the end and nobody's ever purchased anything with the keyword, it's a looky-loo keyword, we're not going to spend any money on that. That's a waste of time. So these are the 3 cardinal pieces that a good keyword must stand up against. Next slide. All right. So this is one of those tools that I use. And specifically, this is a client that I have right now. And so this is a California medical malpractice. You would think somebody's going to look for California medical malpractice more than 2 times a day, wouldn't you? Well, I mean, just think about that. Of all the physicians out there, all the medical groups, all the hospitals are asking, gee, medical malpractice insurance, or California medical malpractice. What's out there? Only 2 people a day. Okay? So next slide. So this just shows that our first stuff we start to look for, malpractice definition is searched 79 times a day. Medical malpractice cases, 95 a day. Now you start thinking, and this guy sells medical malpractice. We ought to have a page that uses medical malpractice cases as its title, and we put some data on there, and we have a chance of capturing some of that traffic because we're using that exact keyword, and we'll go a little bit more into that. But you can start to see that these are the tools you use to start to guide yourself towards ranking and being found on the internet. Again, keywords are the heart and soul of everything we do. Medical negligence cases, 53. Medical negligence claims, 79. So out of all of that, medical malpractice cases is one of the high ones that we would look at from the search standpoint. Next slide. Okay, now we have to look, how about our websites? So how many competitive web pages do we have against those? Well, the one we wanted to go for was this dude here, the medical malpractice cases, 95, but it has 196,000 web pages that we have to compete against. All right, it's too big. We just can't compete with that. So throw that one out, and you can go down through here, and some of these look pretty good. Here's one medical malpractice definition with 79 searches and only 50,000, roughly 50,000 web pages. We can grab that then. I mean, we can guarantee we're going to be on the front page with that. Okay? And then finally, did anybody buy anything? Next slide. So if we're actually selling stuff, which a medical malpractice site isn't going to sell off the web, but D&I might sell art off that web, right? Doesn't make as much sense for him to look at these things, but medical negligent cases, for example, there were $681 purchased off of somebody's sites on a daily basis. On a daily basis. Those could be books, downloads, numbers of different things. Next slide. All right, so where do we put our keywords now that we find them? Okay, scientifically. We put them in the ad copy, that's in the words themselves. We put them in clickable links, click. We put them in the page description. We put them in meta tags, under captions, under pictures, titles, and H1 tags. These are the places that Google looks to see what you're all about. So with those keywords, we want to make sure and put them in exactly where they want them. Next slide. All right, so here's one of my websites, self-defense weapon site. And one of my keywords is self-defense weapons. Well, there it is in a clickable link right there. Okay? That's really juicy, and that was done on purpose. So next slide, please. So I show that, in fact, I've got my clickable link. I've got my tie-in with my social media right on the site. And I'm also using podcasting, and so it ties out to the podcast side of life, because podcasting really isn't a social media, it's part of the YouTube channels. So I'm starting to use all of those strategies on this page. Next one. In the ad copy, as I talked about, here's a self-defense weapon, bold, italicized, and underlined. Google looks through the ad copy to find those things that are accented, and it's determining that if you accent something, it must be relevant for your content, right? So there it is there. Next one. I talked about putting in the meta tags in the code. This is in the actual HTML code that makes the web page work the way it does. And it's in the description, self-defense weapon. Here it's in my keyword definition, self-defense weapons. So you can see it's used strategically in there as well. Next slide. All right. On a title, when you hit a site, if they put it in an H1 tag, which is a header 1 tag, there's self-defense weapons right in an H1 tag. So again, Google's seeing all this just like a checkbox that says, well, this guy wants to rank for self-defense weapons. We know what he's about. Next. Videos, very sexy. Okay, now you get a chance to watch me beat up this poor guy with this self-defense tool that we have. I'll show it to you real quick here. Here is one, a clear version, okay? And then, did anybody see the Men Who Stare at Goats movie? No, it's a big room. Men Who Stare at Goats is a parody that George Clooney plays me in real life in that movie. So in that movie, he also uses the tool in the movie right there to beat up Ewan McGregor, who was actually Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kind of funny. But using videos on the sites are very important. Next. All right. Now that you have all this stuff, we like to use, or I like to use a checkoff sheet. When you're going to make a site, like me, if you're going to make a site, here's what you want to use. Let's go to the best practices. And this is a big drink of water. And I'm just going to blast through this, but basically these are checkoffs. Do you have them or do you don't? Do you have keywords? Are you Google friendly? Do you have a subscription box on the front page? Is there video on the front page? Is the phone number in the upper right hand corner? Is the address in the footer? Do you have a mail-in form? Are you using a Weber opt-in form? Call to action on every page. Unique selling proposition on every page. Photo of the owner, because people like to know who they're doing business with. And it goes on and on. Next page. It goes on and on down through this whole thing. And so I use this form to analyze other people's websites and how they can fix it. But if you're going to build one, this is the kind of form you want to do as you're building it. Are you incorporating all the best practices in your website? Okay, next. Okay. So what does this all lead to? A successful website business is important. Selling products on the web, making a living off the web if you want to, or augment your living. I do all of this stuff. I sell my little plastic tool on the web, and I get anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 of sales a month off these things, which are pretty cool. Save a lot of people's lives. I like that. That's one of my many inventions. And watch how the web is changing and what it means for those who want to make a living off of it. That's what's important to what happens here. And then this happened to me. Next. All right. The BBC decided to come across and find out, they did this study about people who could kill goats by looking at them, and a bunch of other stuff. And they called me, and they came over, and I took them on to Camp Pendleton, where I'm a subject matter expert for the United States Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. And the guy that came across, his name is John Ronson. Now, John Ronson is like our Geraldo Rivera, okay? And he's an extreme liberal, so I knew I had to beat the heck out of him to make sure he understood that this stuff really worked. Otherwise, he would have said, oh, gosh, I don't know. So anyway, they did a 3-hour special, ultimately, in Britain, called The Crazy Rulers of the World. You can find it on the web now. I'm in the first hour of that. And that started an entire bent of my self-defense weapon world, was because of this. Next one. So out of that, I beat up this guy. Then this guy is John Ronson. He's the one, the BBC gentleman. He wrote the book, The Men Who Stare at Goats, on chapter 8 in that book. That got so popular that we got into Playboy. I got in the Playboy. I had a friend of mine who I hired out of Hollywood to work with me, and he says, Peter, I'm on the set. He was a stand-in for House. And he says, I'm on the set, and I got my Playboy. You're in Playboy. I said, oh, come on, give me a break. I'm not in Playboy. And you're in Playboy. So I went down to the liquor store, bought a Playboy. I haven't bought a Playboy in probably 50 years, and I'm 60. So figure that out. And so, sure enough, there I was in the middle of Playboy, and I said, thank God my parents are dead. You know, and you don't want to tell your parents you're in Playboy. And then what happened was, the 1st Earth Battalion, who I was connected with, which was what the show was all about, you see his shirt there is the same shirt I got on. So I wanted to bring in that symbology. But the 1st Earth Battalion was invented by this guy by the name of Colonel Jim Channon, who was a 101st Airborne Commander, 2 tours in Vietnam. And he would realize that there are people that he could put on point when they're on patrol that seem to be able to sense the enemy's whereabouts better than other ones. And so he was trying to figure out a way how they did that and how to teach and train super warriors. When coming out of Vietnam, the DOD gave him the right to go and investigate alternative technologies. I hate him. He went to every love-in, tried every drug, and got paid to do it, right? And this was in the early 70s. And then he wrote the 1st Earth Battalion, which is essentially the blueprint for a super warrior. That was, the Army absolutely adopted and loved it. and that's what became the basis for Star Wars. All of the Jedi Knights and everything that Lucas wrote about essentially is the 1st Earth Battalion by everything. So we're connected to that. Next one. And then, of course, we got into the Goats movie where Clooney majorly plays me in the Goats movie. And I think that leads us down to the self-defense weapon again. And the slant off of this from a business standpoint is I used to just sell the tools. But then, next one, I made a whole bunch more tools. Now, Lynn will know that when you get an engineer that gets creative, you just keep inventing and inventing and inventing. And if you ever have an engineer on your payroll, there's a time when he'll keep inventing and reinventing and making it better and making it better and making it better. And wait, I can do this and do that. You got to fire that guy sooner or later and hire the marketeers to get that product out. Well, I'm one of the same person, so I have a big tussle with myself. But anyway, developing a whole family of these particular self-defense tools that the 82nd Airborne carry, some of the groups of British SAS carry them as well. And then that also led me, what else can I sell with this thing? Well, now I sell a starter kit with them, which comes cleverly with a training DVD and a tool in a box. What else could I do with it? I had a dream. It was just about Christmas time. Well, I got to get these out for sale, more Christmas sale. How do I do that? Well, people are always looking for a quick way to get something that they just put a to who it's from tag and hang it in the Christmas tree. So I did a double printing. I printed on the inside of the DVD cover that. And so when, and you put a little ribbon and a hook and you hang it in the tree. And when, after they open it and realize what it is, they pull the cover out, flip it around, slide it down, and they get the regular cover. I thought that was pretty clever. And within 7 hours of putting the product up, I made my first sale, which is really cool because you think about it, you know, coming out of your mind, out onto the web, and you can sell something like that. And then I did, well, we're capitalists, right? Every month has a holiday in it by design, right? Everybody has to buy flowers on the 14th of February, and everyone, so well, why not me? So I made them in the Valentine's Day gifts, Father's Day gifts. Boy, I got very commercial with it next. And then finally, so in closing, big drink of water, but in closing, great websites are no mistake. You can honestly see that there's a formula that you follow. Websites are like a math model. I knew Lynn might be excited by this because it literally is like the engineering functions that we know and love. Best practices are by no mistake. The consumers tell you what they like on websites. The most popular ones, we look and see why. Okay, and those become the best practices that we need to become aware of. Getting ranked for your keywords is work. It doesn't happen overnight. You see the ads and you put up a website and all of a sudden everybody's ordering. That does not happen. Okay? Success can be yours on the web if you follow these simple concepts that I talked about today. And I want to thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Perfect timing. I was about to say, wow.
Can we get copies of your